All right, so I'm going to get started, and I'm the next speaker, actually. So, thanks everyone everyone that came back. Looks like most of you are here, and I'm going to talk about RCAP's program that we have. So the story here is RCAP, the Rural Community Assistance Partnership, is a national nonprofit that has staff in every state that does technical assistance and training. Traditionally for water and wastewater operators, both for financial things and technical managerial. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, some of the funding that gets through USEPA and EPA chose to also provide funding for private well work. And for my own stake in all this, all I can say was we happened to be in the right place at the right time to get involved with this program with RCAP. And so it's grown. It's a really big program now, allowed us to put on this conference, for instance. And so I'm going to talk about some of the things that we've done and what we've learned. And some of these things apply whether you're working in a local program at a county level or whether what we're trying to do on a national scale. There's certainly things with scale that matter. We can't reach every well owner in the country like a county health department might be able to in their county or a local health department. But and also the rules are so different everywhere that we're trying to deal with, several thousand sets of rules if you count some of the local jurisdictions out east. So this probably shouldn't have been titled One-on-One Assessment Program. I'm actually going to talk about their assessment program tomorrow. It probably should have been entitled RCAP's National Boots on the Ground Outreach and Education Program. So the idea is that what EPA wanted was a program to provide technical assistance and training to well owners. And so how do you do that at a national scale and really get anywhere? And so that's what we're trying and continue to struggle with. What's the most bang for the buck? What can we do that really reaches out and gets to a lot of people? And so I'm going to go through what we've done and how we've approached this. Lots of partners. That's going to be a theme, I think, over the next couple of days. And what we're trying to reach out to. So we certainly realize, in Illinois, I have well owners call me all the time asking for advice or a well log or information about drilling a well, but they certainly don't do that from all over the country. And, there's 50 folks or a lot more like me in other states. And so how do we leverage all that is really what we're after here. So, and here's really our challenge. So how do we reach every well owner we can? And I say it like that because some don't want to be reached, right? I mean, we've all run across, get off my property, I don't care. We heard today about they want to drink their water. They've got a sentimental attachment to it in a lot of ways. My dad was one of those people. We had an old dug well. I grew up on a 14-foot deep, 3-foot diameter well that was in the middle of a ravine in a cattle pasture. So every time it rained, our water was muddy. In the summer, if I left the hose on in the horse tank, we didn't have water for 3 days. But my dad swore that it was always better water than a city water because it didn't have chemicals in it. Did not want chemicals in his water. And that's the way, so it says a lot, I realize. Okay, so other questions, what approach works best and where? We see that well owners come from every kind of situation. So it works in one area, it doesn't work in another. They may trust some local entity much more than another county entity or state entity, and it may be different in different areas. Depending on who kind of the champion is, in some areas you go into and there's one guy, if you can get him on your side, you can go anywhere you want to in that area. And we find that all the time. How do we deliver consistent approach and methodology? So especially our challenge, we developed a class, the private well class, which is the basis for all the work that we do. It's 10 lessons. And it's meant to teach well owners the basics of good well stewardship, why they should test, just information about how groundwater flows through the ground, all those things. And so what can we teach people that we can do nationally that still fits? Because in some areas you have different things than you do others. And so there's some things you really can't. Just like up here, we use pitless adapters because we're in a cold climate where we need a pitless adapter. Arizona, their pressure tank's sitting outside their well, out in the elements year round. So there's a lot of differences. The big question is how do we avoid stepping on others' toes? And this again goes to whatever scale you're working at. We want to go into a state and start working. What's the best way to do that? Well, one is to identify who's already doing things in those states so that you don't step on their toes and try to become a good partner, and I'll talk about that some more. But sometimes that's impossible to do even if you have the right intentions. And so there's just, there's a lot of things, getting the right people on your side, so to speak. How do we find partners with sufficient expertise? And then lastly, and I'm going to talk about that probably earlier on, is how do we justify the funding we've been provided? There's not a lot of private well funding, and we certainly recognize that. Being involved with private wells for 30 years, we really sit in a very fortunate position to be able to put on a conference like this in the first place, and I certainly realize that, and it's not missed. That's the one thing I can say. So how do we leverage all the staff that RCAP have around the country and all the things that we'd like to do to raise awareness of well issues? And so, we think about those things a lot. And that, again, goes to really any size program. Whether you get $5,000 or $5 million, what you do with it is what matters. So quickly about the private well class. Privatewellclass.org is our website. And you can go there and sign up. And the initial part of this in 2013, working with RCAP, we had a small grant from them to develop a 10-lesson online class. So you sign up with email, and it sends you one lesson a week for 10 weeks, and it walks through what we think a good well owner, what a well owner should know, how to be a better steward of their well and protect their aquifer. We had some webinars that went along with that. It was a pretty small program. The next year, we got funded in August of 2014, and we started working with the RCAP staff around the country. We put on 30 workshops for well owners around the country, and that sounds great. But there's 15 million private wells, so 30 workshops times 20 to 25 people, we're just hardly reaching anybody, right? So then in 2015, the program was really, RCAP was able to secure a much larger grant. And so the regions, there's 6 RCAP regions, and I'll show that in a second. But they actually dedicated staff to this program, and then we also were able to bring in other partners, NEHA, the National Environmental Health Association, NGWA, the National Groundwater Association, the Water Systems Council. Karen talked earlier from the Water Systems Council about their hotline, and this program is what funds that too. Cliff's going to talk tomorrow during the lightning talks from NGWA. And so in NEHA, the big thing there, we approached them because we had a bunch of sanitarians take our class when we first started it, and they all asked how they could get CEUs. And so we started investigating that and found out who NEHA was. I'm a groundwater hydrologist and a civil engineer, so I've not been close to NEHA in my entire life until the last few years. It's a great partnership. They put our class up on their website. Now any sanitarian can go take that class and get 1 CEU for each of the 10 lessons. So that's something to consider as well. So it's moving forward, we also added, one of the things that we recognize, I talk a lot about partners, is that there's some really good programs going on around the country. I'm skipping here to the Texas and Pennsylvania Extension and workshops. So Texas and Pennsylvania Extension both have really great programs already. They go out and do training and workshops for well owners, do sampling. And so we approached them about, rather than having RCAP staff come into their state and try to start a program, we instead made them a partner, and we've helped extend the number of workshops and stuff that they do. So, recognizing where there's good work already going on and there's a lot of expertise, we've tried to leverage that where we can. Like I said, it funded this conference that we're having today, and it also has allowed us to start doing more work one-on-one with well owners. So we developed a site assessment tool, and I'll talk about that tomorrow. But it's an 8 or 9 page form that you can take out and work with the well owner directly. It's kind of like a sanitary survey for a private well, if you're familiar with those. And it allows us to teach them about their well, the site conditions near their well, look at the geology, tell them if it's vulnerable and why, what they should be concerned with. So it's a one-on-one technical assistance opportunity, which is what RCAP has a lot of experience with, and also putting on workshops, which is the other part of what RCAP traditionally has done with serving water and wastewater operators. So we are fortunate enough to have another grant that's going to start in a few months, and Mississippi State and Virginia Tech, both their extension programs are also going to come on board. And so we're just going to continue the work we're doing. To me, we'll never reach every well owner, and that's for sure. So like I said, some don't want to be reached, but being consistent and making more partners, and that's the point of this conference, is for everyone to get to know everybody. Not necessarily for our benefit, but there's way more well owners out there than we could all serve if we were doing this 100% time, right? So the more we can bring people together and learn from each other, the better off we are. So I want to mention the RCAP Network, and there's someone from each of these regions here. RCAC is the West Coast, Midwest Assistance Program is the upper Midwest, if you will, the Plains. Great Lakes RCAP is Illinois through West Virginia and Wisconsin and Michigan. RCAP Solutions is the Northeast. The Southeast RCAP is Florida and all the way up to Maryland, I think. Is that right? Yeah. And then Communities Unlimited is the one that's down in the South. And I want to mention that because they're trying to put on workshops. And so one of their biggest tasks really is to make partnerships and find folks who are interested so they can work together to find venues or speakers, all those sorts of things. And they've done a great job of that. We've put on 30 or 40 workshops for well owners around the country and 24 or so, probably more than that now, for sanitarians. We've developed a 4-hour workshop. And so I wanted to mention those folks because I was asked if anyone's interested. Tomorrow at 5, when we get done, the RCAP staff are going to stick around, and if you're in one of these regions and you'd like to talk to them about their program, this would be an opportunity to do that. So I'm going to ask them to stand up. RCAC, I think we have Julie Connell and Jerry Teneco. They're from RCAC, the Western RCAP. From the Midwest Assistance Program, Jesse Campbell. Oh, he was here. Oh, there he is, sorry, Hayden. From Great Lakes RCAP, Cindy Brooks and Tom Fishbaugh. So, yeah, and RCAP Solutions, I know we have Jim Starbird and Kathy Rogers, Candace Balmer. Anybody else? Okay, that's a lot. From Southeast RCAP, Janice Tatum. Okay, and from Communities Unlimited, Annie Chiodo. So if you go up to those guys, say hi, tell them where you're from, what you're doing, and that's. I am making a plug, but it's because we want to be successful and we'd rather work with people than try to do things separately. We have deliverables that we're going to meet as far as the number of workshops that are done and the number of well assessments that are going to be done. We've developed a lot of great partnerships, and that's an opportunity. In a lot of cases, programs have an opportunity to put on a workshop here or to do some other type of program, but you don't have staff to go out and do a one-on-one with a well owner who has a problem. And that's where RCAP has been able to step in a few areas, and where state might be able to call them and say, hey, we've got this well owner with this really unique problem. The RCAP person can go out there and actually talk to them and see what's going on and maybe try to help them find a solution. So it's, again, it's a benefit of our funding really, and but it allows us to provide that level of service. And so you should take advantage of it. So here's all the partners. I just wanted to throw this up just to say that, we certainly recognize that the only way we're going to reach more well owners is if we have a big group of folks who are all on the same page and trying to do things that are similar. And so these are all the RCAP regions, RCAP national offices in DC. I left Dave out. Dave Clark, is you here? He's with the national office. You can also talk to him. He's in the back there about the overall program. He's the project officer and the person who deals with EPA. So he's got the least favorite job of all of us, I think. But yeah, then all the others I've mentioned here. And so it's really a community effort, if you will, and recognizing where there's expertise and trying to leverage that stuff. And as I mentioned, that's just the folks that are involved with our grant. But to put on any of these workshops, we did on January 16th and 17th, two of us, Katie Hollenbeck and I, went out to Massachusetts and met with the RCAP Solutions staff, and we put on 2 workshops for sanitarians, one in Massachusetts and one in Connecticut. And so the Connecticut Environmental Health Association, I listed there, and the Massachusetts Environmental Health Association, they provide things, they get the word out to their members. Like NEHA is really great about getting out to all the sanitarians that are members. We send them something, they'll put it in their newsletter, and it goes out to thousands of people, and that's really a benefit. So all the way down to Erie County's listed here in the East Dakota. Is that what's Water Development District? Okay, yeah, that's in the map area. So a lot of folks who their charge is to work with well owners, so they're willing to partner. And that's the way things get done. So it's the bottom line. So they, again, as I said here, they advertise, they solicit well owners, or they have well owners who contact them. and also provide feedback, what they like and don't like, especially the workshops that we're putting on. For the sanitarian workshops, we put in our proposal for next year not to do the same material we've been doing, but instead to take the feedback from the workshops we've already done on what they want to see most, and so we can target the type of education we're providing to sanitarians based on where they live and what they've told us in the past. So, yeah. So why so many partners? I throw this up. This is part of our class. The bottom figure there is the Chicago area. How many people knew that Cook County has over 3,000 private wells? Cook County they have a lot. So even though that's the most urban area in the country, arguably, all those incorporated towns have little areas that are unincorporated, and every one of them are full of private wells. So the bottom picture is a well from 1995. That image comes from the Illinois Geological Survey, has a website where you can look at all the wells in Illinois. And so, but we're pretty close to O'Hare Airport there, and we've got, there's a bunch of wells there. Versus where I grew up, which that's Middletown, Illinois up there, that little blue dot is where my dug well is. I think there's 2 wells or maybe 3 wells in the entire section. Very rural, very unpopulated area. So a lot of different issues we have to deal with. And that's why, we can't reach both subsets of those folks with one person necessarily, but you find a local partner who is used to working with those in those different areas, and it helps a lot. I mentioned rules and construction and attitudes are so different. They are everywhere. Many of you already know that, I know, but it really makes it tough to go into an area and start working. And I already mentioned about local trusted sources. The story I like to tell is, I think it was Columbia University contacted us about doing some testing in one of our aquifers in Illinois because we have a lot of arsenic in it, and I have a monitoring well network out there. And so they contacted us and asked about finding 3 places for them to come out and test this new type of drill shoe that would allow you to collect a sample in place, frozen. So they wanted to do it there because we have arsenic and it's similar to where they were going to go in Bangladesh. And so it turned out the retired water operator in that area is someone I've known for 20 years because of the wells I have out there. I called him, and he got us 3 sites within 2 days. And we were taking up 3 acres of farm ground for each. And if I had to go out there and do that on my own, it probably never would have happened. So having those local partners is really what drives the train most of the time. And the other side of this is there's so much good work going on around the country, but everyone's just busy doing their job. So, you don't have a chance, especially at the local level. You might have a county health department or a local health district that's really doing great work and had some really innovative ideas, but they don't have time to publish. They're not presenting at conferences necessarily. So if we can leverage those folks and find them and work with them, then we can share that with everybody and move that forward. So we have a newsletter for those of you that subscribe, and you can see in blog posts where we try to highlight other things that are going on. Pennsylvania puts on a groundwater symposium every year, and the bottom one, Connecticut just put on a private well workshop in March, and they had 150 people there, I think. 130, yeah. So, it's leveraging what everybody else is doing and letting people know about it. So, so going back to justifying our funding, we certainly feel the pressure, as I mentioned before, to do that. And so we try to share everything. We developed this assessment tool. It's free to use. We put everything up on the web. Just like all these talks for this conference, they're being recorded and they'll be available to anyone who wants to see them. We provide our materials freely if somebody wants to use our slides, all those sorts of things. One, because we recognize how fortunate we are to be able to put this stuff together. Plus, a lot of folks don't have the time or resources to do that. So that's kind of our role. And I mentioned this conference. We just developed a complete set of our private well class in Spanish, and it's on our website now. And so, that's what we're trying to do, is justify why we're here. So how do we reach every well owner we can? It really comes down to being a good partner. So to me, that means, honestly, it means being willing to give more than you get from who your partners are. And so we really try to do that. I go out of my way to go talk whenever I can on our dime and when people ask. And so, again, we're fortunate to have this national network of folks who can, someone calls me from Georgia, I can go get them to somebody who might be able to help them. And the last thing there, be consistent, diligent, and have a long-term plan. It really helps that I've been involved in this field for 30 years. I won't deny that at all. But if you really want to grow a program, that's how to do it, is to be involved and stay engaged and find a way to keep working on those topics. So what works best and where? We don't necessarily even know that. So that's why we need to leverage local partners. Those folks most of the time know what their well owners want or what they don't like, and whether they don't want somebody to come in or whatever. And so as we've moved forward, the regional staff at RCAP have been developing those partnerships. They're also developing in-house expertise that they might not have had even 2 years ago, even brought in new staff. And so that's allowing us to actually go in and be able to answer more questions and provide that support. So, and regular communication. There's a lot of moving parts to our program. And so we do communicate regularly, although if you ask the RCAP folks, they'll say that I've been negligent about any conference calls the last 2 months, but that's because of this conference. But overall, we talk frequently and we try to bounce ideas off each other. And, we'd certainly want to grow that work group as much as we can too. How do we deliver a consistent approach and methodology? So what we did for the class was try to figure out what was really universal, every well owner should know. And that's the basis for our class. There's so many differences, especially in construction code and local rules and types of geology, that we went with the approach that we're going to teach them about how water gets in their well, why they need to protect it, what they can do, look at the surface, when was it drilled, all those basic things, understand why their pump kicks on and off 20 times a minute, what's probably going on there, all those sorts of things. And so that's what we've developed our materials around, to answer a lot of those basic questions and just try to make them more informed so they understand how their well works, why they need to know that, and how they can protect their family's health by understanding those things. So, we went into this program realizing that developing a nationally consistent approach is kind of a really hard thing to do. But the bottom line is, to run a national program, you need hundreds, literally, of local partners, or it won't work. And so that's what we're after. Thank you. I'm going to skip this because I'm running out of time. So I want to talk about this a little bit because avoid stepping on others' toes is really an issue. We've all, me included, have developed a lot of time learning what we know about geology and groundwater and the laws in our state and all that stuff. And so, we don't want to come in anywhere, and where it's possible, certainly try to make things as universal, as mutually beneficial as possible. And again, it comes down to being willing to give more than you get back. You need to go into this, at least from our perspective, wondering how we can help the other program, whether it's give them materials or do whatever, and then understanding where they're coming from, understanding what they've done in the past, how long they've been involved in a program, what level of effort they put into it, because there's some states where there's no effort going on. We can't even find anybody to contact to work with us. And there's other states where there's a really strong, robust program where we really should just be supporting what they do, not trying to go in there and do anything through the RCAP network anyway. So, and over time, earning trust and respect is what it's really all about. There's cases where it certainly takes more than one try to do that, or there's misunderstandings, but our job is to facilitate all the information we have, and so that's what we really have tried to do. So from your side, and I've left out an important point, really, a lot of these things go whether you're working in a national program, a state program, or a local program, because they're really the same problems. Whether you're trying to work with, we've done projects like with local FFA chapters because we couldn't get anybody in the area to give us the time of day. But if you have the FFA chapter kids go out and collect samples for you, all of a sudden, we did a study after the floods in '93, 5 local school districts along the Illinois-Mississippi rivers where it flooded. The schools had maybe 1,300 or 1,400 kids total in the 5 schools, and we got 986 samples because we had the FFA chapters do it instead of us going and doing it, because we're the state government, right? So it's understanding all those things and who your partners need to be, how to reach people. And so, and again, over the last 2 years, I mentioned this already, RCAP staff have really brought their game and allowed us to meet a lot of new folks and open some doors and do those things. So I wanted to mention that again. If you get a chance to talk to those folks, there's a lot of unique stories. The one thing I've learned is every well is different. Unless you're in a subdivision where the same driller drilled 12 wells in a row, they're all different. They all have a different issue. There's always something that you haven't seen before, and that continues to happen. So I do want to mention that this has all been possible because of RCAP, the Rural Community Assistance Partnership in the regions, and so this is funded by USEPA. And I want to give a shout out really to Robert Stewart. He really saw the potential and value of this when we first started, when he didn't have to give us the time of day. He retired last week as the executive director of RCAP, and he really is the reason why we have this program. So yeah, it's why we're all here today and at a free conference because of the funding we have. And yeah, so I hope everyone, you should try to reach out and get to know all the folks, especially in your area. And so when you're meeting with the RCAP folks, even if it's other folks who are reaching out and finding out what you're doing in your state or in your counties, there's a lot of opportunity at this conference to build some of those relationships. So that's what I have. Any questions? Alrighty. So.